And it is 5:30, and let us open up this meeting of the Planning and Zoning meeting. Welcome, everybody who's come here to speak. If you wish to speak, there is a form for you to fill out. It looks like I have quite a few, so I think most of y'all caught it, but if anybody is planning to speak, you need to fill out one of these. Okay, so let us begin. The first item on our agenda is approval of minutes for March 16th. Commissioners.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
I'll give it to Mary. Sorry, Brian. All those in favor of approving the March 16th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that passes. Okay, first item on the agenda is case number SV 2022-002. Applicant Daniel Toof is requesting a subdivision waiver from section 155.6.11 sidewalk requirements to be constructed at 191 Davis Avenue, parcel R76719, being lot 17 of block 2 of the S5200 McAllister, 2nd of the city of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Steve, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For this case, on page 14 of your staff report, we have an aerial showing the location of the property. And with that aerial, you'll see that there, for this sidewalk installation, it would be required along the frontages of Davis and Sheila Street. That is roughly 180 linear feet of sidewalk. There's curb and gutter present in this neighborhood, but no sidewalk. And so, since there's no sidewalk in the immediate vicinity, and then actually most of the neighborhood, if not all of the neighborhood, staff is technically programmed to say no on any waiver to the subdivision ordinance, but common sense, we would support this and would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Steve?
I do.
Yes.
The application in here, as you mentioned, indicates that, well, there's nothing on this application that talks about why they want a waiver. But you're saying that because there's no sidewalks in the area that we're prone to agree with the waiver. However, if I recall back in November, when Vince Daddio was here on 3 properties on Dale Street, he requested the same thing because there weren't any sidewalks there, or curb and gutter. And the question I really have is, how is it that they qualify for a waiver? Because if I'm reading the information, yes, the property was platted before March 2021, and yes, the property is not outside the approved areas of the city, so that grants them the opportunity that they can request a waiver. But if I'm understanding the ordinance, it requires a hardship.
Yeah, if I can jump in, the minor waiver process are the qualifying criteria that you mentioned, and that can be reviewed by staff and approved at staff level administratively. This is not a minor waiver request, it's actually the major waiver. That was the option that the applicant chose, and so it does come before P&Z, and you are correct, the ordinance does state that generally it's a hardship derived reason as to why a waiver would be granted. In this case, there's just simply not any sidewalk in the area, so it would be this one corner property with sidewalk, but none of the adjacent properties would have it.
So how does not wanting to spend the money on the sidewalk when they're gonna build a project qualify as a hardship waiver, because that's not how it's defined in the ordinance? In fact, the ordinance goes through and talks about several conditions for the hardship, but not wanting to buy it or not because there's no sidewalks there is considered a hardship.
Yeah, Commissioner, that's a very valid point, and I've answered to the best of my ability. So I think it's, at this point, it's truly up to the commission to decide how to proceed.
So if it doesn't have a hardship, I mean, if they're not requesting a hardship and they're not providing any evidence of a hardship, that would
motion
mean
and
this
discussion.
application's incomplete.
Okay,
Very fair.
thank you.
I do have just a quick question. Does this house, or has this parcel already been developed? Is there a house here already?
It's
No.
under construction.
It's under construction, okay.
Okay, is the property owner here?
Daniel Toof.
Okay, so Mr. Toof is not here. We're going to go ahead and open this up to a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor or against this sidewalk waiver? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, we need a motion to discuss.
I move that we approve the waiver.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Hines, I hear what you're saying, but I also think it's kind of silly to put I mean, I love sidewalks, but this is a completely older, established neighborhood. Every other lot is developed. Putting a sidewalk here does not make a lot of sense to
Well,
me.
that was the same issue from Vince Daddio on Dale Street. That's a developed neighborhood. There were no curb and gutters on one side, there was on Dale Street on the other side. And his position was, we don't have sidewalks
Yeah.
anyway, so why do it?
Well, but that's not for us to litigate, right? That decision was made, so our decision is on this property solely. So I think the issue that you're bringing up is something that perhaps staff needs to address at the ordinance level. Am I correct, Steve?
Yes, ma'am. That would
Yeah,
be-
I mean, if we want to
We
allow
want to
that.
remove the hardship provision from the ordinance.
I would also just interject, oh, sorry, Bruce.
Go ahead.
That maybe one of the differences would be that Dale Street is a feeder to the schools, and Dale is frequently used by children and students walking to and from the schools. That would suggest that at some point, connecting sidewalks would be built along the way, whereas this neighborhood is on the complete opposite side of
So I'm
the
not
highway
trying-
from.
I'm not trying to draw the correlation between, we did it one way and now we're not another. What I'm looking at is, the ordinance clearly says that the only way they can get a waiver is to demonstrate there's a hardship, and then they have to prove the hardship, which none of that's been developed. And it seems to me, if we're gonna be consistent in looking at this, that if the ordinance says this, then I would think the application's incomplete, because they haven't come in and said, the reason we're requesting is because of this. And because there's no sidewalks in the neighborhood does not constitute a hardship under the ordinance. That's what
I get what you're saying, and again, I think I'm gonna put that back to Steve and his group, that needs to be addressed at the ordinance level.
Yes.
Correct. Okay,
I
Bruce, you
have
had something
two
to say.
comments on that. I generally base my vote on these sidewalk waivers based on the width of the street available, whether there's curb and gutter already in place, the amount of traffic on the street. These two streets on the corner here on Davis and the other street, I don't recall what it is.
Sheila.
Sheila.
Is a wide enough street where pedestrians can be accommodated on the street. Dale, on the other hand, is a very narrow street at that position where those three houses were going in, or those three lots were being developed. And I based my vote on putting the sidewalk in because the street was so narrow. Whereas on these streets, they're wide enough for pedestrians to be accommodated.
But
Okay.
you're saying they should walk in the street then, and
I walk in,
again,
I walk in
this
the
is
street
not-
7 days a week.
So this isn't the issue that we are discussing. So let's go ahead and vote on this, leave it to city. I mean, obviously, it's gonna go to council. They will make a final decision, and then this issue will go back to staff, where certainly they do need to address this in the ordinance, correct? Okay. What we're gonna do is we'll do a roll call vote, because there seems to be some dissension among the troops. So the motion that stands is that we recommend to council approving this waiver. Bruce?
Aye.
Justin?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Brian?
Yes.
Nick?
Aye.
And Tom? Nay. Okay, so that'll be noted and go forth. And again, that will be up to city council to make that final decision. Moving on to case number SV 2022-003. Applicant D. Stevens, representing Erath County is requesting a subdivision waiver from section 155.06.08.c for site visibility easement from 45 feet by 45 feet non-residential to 20 feet by 20 feet for minimum residential for property located at 222 East College, parcel R29239, being lot 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Block 14 of City Addition to the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So this is going to be the new county building. It's going to result in the relocation of several offices here on the square. From what I recall in early discussions, this is an approximately 26,000 square foot building. It's going to be a very nice addition to the downtown area. They have requested a waiver for the site visibility triangle and wanting to reduce that from 45 feet down to 20 feet. The 20-foot requirement is what we have for residential areas. And if you're familiar with this downtown area, these streets do not necessarily handle a huge amount of traffic, and they really serve more as a local type street than they would a collector or anything else. So in discussion with our Public Works Director, staff is supportive of this request. And on page 29 of your packet, we have an aerial photo that may help you kind of place where this building is going to be. The site visibility triangles will be illustrated. Let's see if I can get to the email.
Let me ask you a question, Steve.
Yes, sir.
When you are at any stop sign on any of these four corners, when this building is completed, can you see the adjoining street?
I believe the answer to that would be yes. The building has not been constructed yet, so I
Well, I'm
can't
sure
say
there's-
definitively, but I don't think we would allow, because of the setbacks, the building should not provide any type of site obstruction whatsoever.
Well, I just want to make sure that you can, when you're at the stop sign, you can see oncoming traffic.
Absolutely.
So the county's building this building, which puts them outside the city limits. So they're not required to go for permit.
This is a county office building, but
In
it's
the
actually
city.
located at College and Floral, at a
In the
property they
city.
have acquired. And so they have county offices on our square right now. They're basically moving east
So
and building
the-
a new building at College and Floral,
Is that the county, is that a county-owned building?
county-owned building.
So they're outside the permit review.
But they're building in the city, so they have to follow the
So,
city rules.
so the state, we work with the county, and they do comply with our local regulations. The state is preempted.
So to follow up, again, we don't know what their landscaping is going to do that could impact a smaller view triangle.
The site visibility triangle will not
Yes.
allow any landscaping that would cause any additional site obstruction within that
But
triangle.
if we reduce that, which could put landscaping closer to the curb, how does that, I guess it goes back to the hardship issue. I understand what you're saying, but they haven't proved that there's a hardship under the ordinance as to why we should grant them from a commercial to a residential, especially since we don't know how they're eventually going to landscape and put that building together, which could impact the clarity of a 20 by 20 view triangle. And we don't know what that's going to be.
I think we need a motion, right, before we have this conversation?
Well, we need to do a public, we
A
need to open
public
it up to
hearing
a
and
public
then
hearing
motion
before we
first.
go forward. So if this is just clarifying, but if we're having actual discussion, we need to
Okay.
put a pin in it. But if you just have a specific question for Steve, like, do you know the capacity of this building?
So,
How many
right.
people will be coming in and out? How big will this building be?
So generally in a commercial zoned area, industrially zoned area, streets that have higher traffic volumes, we would require a 45-foot site triangle, site visibility triangle. This, I think, is, as I stated, the development staff and public works staff, we are supportive of the 20-foot because the traffic volume is much lower, the speeds are much lower. And if it's reduced to a 20-foot, landscaping in that 20-foot site visibility triangle would not be allowed to be anything that would grow high enough to cause an obstruction within that 20-foot triangle.
But the
Okay.
land, okay.
Let's hold that for our discussion portion. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Steve specifically?
Public safety has reviewed this as well? Well,
Yes, sir.
staff is, I think.
Okay.
And they had no issues?
No
Public
issues
safety had no
reported by
issues.
staff.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak for or against this waiver? All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Now we can, if somebody would like to give me a motion, then we can discuss.
I move that we recommend SV 2022-003 for approval.
Second?
All right, knock yourself out, Tom.
So I understand the 20-foot by 20-foot landscaping, but we're reducing from a 45 to 20, which means the landscaping can then push up to the 20 by 20, eliminating the benefit of a 45 by 45 view triangle. Now, if county offices are going over there, how do we know that in the next year or 2 years, all we have is history, that increased traffic in that area, because those are county offices there and open to the public, that they will not draw a higher income of traffic than what we're seeing right now, which would then be the reason why you have a 45, because we don't know what the future's going to be. And the reason for the 45 is because it is public access and the potential of increased traffic, and especially pedestrian areas. And from a economic development, based on what I've been exposed to, they're working very hard to increase the population of the square, get those older buildings put together, and that just happens to be next to 3 or 4 older buildings that I know they're trying to sell and will eventually occupy.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that's,
I think we've got your concern. What about, people want to address that?
I would like to make a motion for an amendment to the original motion of approval, that we attach a condition to that approval, that all 4 corners on this, at this location, be made 4-way stops.
There has to be a
Well,
second before we can discuss. So
I would second that.
So Tom is a second.
Wouldn't that require a traffic study to
That-
implement a stop?
I think
Yeah.
we're stepping beyond the scope.
Yeah, I
That's-
do too. I
that's-
feel like this is outside the scope of
But if you're
what we're
saying-
doing
if
here.
you're
Public
saying
safety
here
did
that
take a
we're
look at
reducing-
it,
Right.
and they did not
Yeah,
find a need
this is
for an adjustment.
I believe when we start trying to change the,
The traffic.
traffic flow and stop signs and no parking, and that's beyond the scope of this commission.
I would agree.
I believe that would be something that would need to be addressed by council and not through this committee.
Correct. So
We have to vote on the
we have to
motion.
vote on that motion. So we'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor of Bruce's amendment to require a 4-way stop at each intersection, say aye. So we're going to start with Bruce,
Aye?
Justin,
No.
Mary.
No.
I'm a no. Brian?
No.
No?
No.
No, and Tom's an
Yes.
aye. Okay, so that motion fails. So what remains is the question of whether to approve. My inclination is to approve because it's a small, dense downtown area. Traffic is less dense, things move more slowly. We have to make special allowances in these small, dense downtown areas. We're going to continue to have these come up. I don't think we should have the same expectations that we have for something on Washington Street as we do in this area. That is my opinion, and that's why I'm inclined to vote in favor of this.
Well, and if everybody will also remember, the building that occupied that property was also within that 20-foot barrier on
That's
2 or
that's
3
what
of the corners.
that's what I was going to ask.
And we
I
never
think
had
for sure
issues
it was on
before.
that one.
Why would we have issues now?
It definitely was on that corner of College and, or what, that, I can't remember, I can't see what that one
Virginia.
is, Virginia. It- I know there was parking around that one edge, but, I mean, but it's also, it's a very low traffic area.
Right, yeah.
And the county parking is also right across the street there, so there's gonna be plenty of visibility, I believe, on that corner. I don't think there's an issue, with this 20-foot
Okay.
setback.
And I heard your point, Tom, that it is now, and we simply don't know.
That's why.
Yes, I hear,
But,
I hear it.
But that's why we also have public safety who's taken a look at it. You know, I don't think that, I think if there was gonna be some kind of major issue with this 25-foot difference, that it would have been mentioned in this report. We do have to trust that they're also doing their job at the city level to make sure that this is something that works.
Right, do any
with the
commissioners
lot.
have anything new to add? Anything off this topic? Are we ready to vote? All right. The motion that stands is recommend to council approval of the subdivision waiver to, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one, of the site visibility easement from 45 by 45 to 20 by 20 is the current motion, and we will do a roll call. Bruce, are you in favor?
No.
No. Justin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Brian?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Tom? No. Okay, well, that finds in favor of the motion, so that motion does pass. It will go forward to council with a recommendation for approval. Moving up to the next item on the agenda, case number SV 2022-004. Applicant D. Stevens, representing Erath County, is requesting a subdivision waiver from section 155.06.05.g to reduce the distance between driveways along city-maintained streets from 100 feet to 50 feet for property located at 222 East College Parcel R2939, being Lot 1, 2, 3, and 4 of Block 14 of City Addition to the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Exact same case with the exception of this is for the distance from the driveway to the intersecting street for the property. And so they will have a drive approach that comes off of, I believe, McNeil along Floral up to College. And it will allow for one-way traffic when they get to the top. And this is, again, on their private property. It's a service drive, and when they get to the end of the service drive, they can either enter into the parking lot and head west, exit onto, I believe that's Virginia Street, or they can turn right and exit onto Floral Street. And I sent by email, I sent a site plan, but in your packet, you should have some aerials that illustrate the street layout. And so, again, they will enter from the south into the service drive and then proceed to the north and either exit through the parking lot to the west or onto the street to the east.
So the service drive is on their property?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it.
And that was designed to try to prevent on-street parking and to allow their staff to leave the building and provide service to elderly or disabled.
Okay.
Public safety, Public Works have reviewed it, same question as last time?
I know Fire has, yes, sir.
Okay. And they,
No opposition.
Okay.
Staff, again, supports the requests from the development team, including Public Works.
thank you.
Other questions for Steve?
So the application says that their request reflects the traffic patterns in the area, but they provide no evidence of what those traffic patterns are to support what they want to do. How do we know that
Traffic
that's
impact
correct?
study would not even be required unless they were generating over 1,000 trips per day. And so based on their submittal, their engineer is saying that they don't believe there's going to be an impact to that level.
We're dealing in a growth mode we're growing. I know that Sedco is moving.
Is this directly relevant to questions for Steve, or can we pause this till we discuss?
Okay.
Okay, okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is anybody here wish to speak in favor or against this subdivision waiver? All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and request a motion.
I'm so moved that we approve the waiver for, I lost the,
I'll second.
Reducing distance.
reducing the distance, yes.
Okay, so Mary and Bruce. Okay, so the motion stands that we recommend council approving this reduction
SV
of.
2022-004.
Okay, Tom.
I just think we, as a community, because we're growing, and I understand this particular condition, so that's unique to that piece of property. But if the data that we're looking on is current data and ordinances are based on what they knew at the time and future considerations, I think we really need to be careful, especially in these in these waivers, when the city is beginning to grow, and I think we need to look at that very carefully. And if we don't have current data that could project in that, then we could be making decisions based on current information, which the decisions now are going to come to fruition in several years.
Yes, agreed. Part of our job is planning.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, anybody else have any comments? Are we ready to vote? All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. The motion stands to recommend to council approval of this subdivision waiver to reduce the distance between driveways. Bruce?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Brian?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that recommendation goes forward to council. Moving on, case number RZ 2022-004. Applicant William Oxford is requesting a rezone of property located at 855 College Farm Road, parcel R29923 of Block 87, Lot 2, S2 600, City Edition of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas, from Neighborhood Business District B1 to 1 and 2 Family Residential District R2. Mr. Killen.
Yes, ma'am. Future land use for this particular property is R2, so this request complies with the comprehensive plan. It's in alignment with comprehensive plan. The intended project is to build a personal residence, and future thought might be to add a duplex in there, which of course would require replat at that time, but he's thinking forward. R2 would allow a single-family residence and a dual or two-family structure as well as a permitted use. There is water and sewer in the vicinity along College Farm Road. The applicant provided a copy of the existing plat, which is on page 68. And with that, ma'am, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Steve? I don't see Bill Oxford here today.
There you
Oh, there he is. You were hidden. Mr. Oxford, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
My wife would like to build a home there.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor or against this rezone? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Commissioners, I need a motion.
I recommend to council that we approve RZ 2022-004.
Second.
That was Nick for a second. Anybody have anything they need to discuss?
No, I think this is perfectly fitting. I know there are some kind of duplex apartments that are adjacent to this property, so I think it's a perfect match.
I agree. All right, shall we vote? All those in favor of recommending to council approval of this request, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Mr. Oxford, you're moving on to city council. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, case number FP 2022-001. Applicant J. Gary Shelton, representing GMS RCP LP, is requesting a final plat of property located at 2820 West Washington, parcel R22350, being Block 1 of Lot 1R of FAI addition to the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Yes, ma'am. This is a final plat for a place that we're all familiar with, Whataburger. It's the new Whataburger on Washington Street. The property is complete. In the staff report, it says it's near completion, so that was someone that is new to the city and was basing it on the application and what we were doing, because typically a final plat would be filed at the completion of a project once the public improvements are accepted and a maintenance bond is recorded at the city or filed with the city. Unfortunately, even though the project was completed and the CO was issued, certificate of occupancy, we did not get the final acceptance on the public improvements, nor did we receive the maintenance bond. And so what we're asking is that the plat be approved with conditions that the maintenance bond be provided and that the public improvements be accepted by the Public Works Department. Other than that, the plat meets the requirements to move forward with reclamation. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, I'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor or against this final plat? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, do we have a motion?
I move that we recommend to council approval of FP 2022-001 with the staff conditions.
Second.
In a second, do we need to discuss? Are we good to vote?
I'm just curious as to why this was premature.
I believe it was we simply missed it during the development process.
Okay.
The question was why, I think, why did this happen? And it was staff simply missed the fact that the improvements, they were inspected, they were not accepted. So obviously the improvements were installed. We actually had an escrow account during the construction. And I think the escrow account may have been the reason that we overlooked requiring the maintenance bond. So all of that was certainly staff error, but something that Whataburger is working with. We've been in discussion with Whataburger. They're working with us to get this filed as quickly as possible. So.
All right. The motion stands to recommend to council approving the final plat along with the following conditions: public improvement be accepted by the City of Stephenville Public Works, and a maintenance bond be submitted by the City of Stephenville Works. All those in...
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I was under the impression, or I believe we have been told previously, that this does not move on to city council, that P&Z, in fact, has the final say on plats.
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for correcting my wording. So, strike from the record, recommend to council, and simply say approve with these recommendations.
With these conditions.
With these conditions.
I'll second
Thank
that
you.
amendment.
How about this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Phew, okay. That was a tough one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're getting to what you have all come here tonight to talk about. So we are moving on to case, I think this is what we're all here to talk about. It is, right?
I believe so.
Yes. Okay, case number RZ 2022-005, RZ 2022-006, and RP 2022-002. Applicant Tom Brooks is requesting a rezone of property located at West FM 8, parcel R22552, being 29.751 acres, A0520, Menifree Jarrett of the City of Stephenville, Erath County, Texas, from single-family residential R1 to multiple-family residential R3 and retail and commercial business B2 with simultaneous replatting. Mr. Killen.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So for this parcel, the future land use is actually R1, and they are requesting to move to R3. And a portion of this property would be B2, retail and commercial along Lincolnville Highway on the west side of the property. The R3 portion is on the northwestern side of the property and would allow for the development of a senior living center. Late last year and early into 2022, the city of Stephenville was approached by, I believe, 4 different agencies that were wishing to build these senior center facilities. And this was basically an application process through the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. And Stephenville qualified for one project, one out of 4 that were interested in coming to the city of Stephenville. Part of that process is that it has to be endorsed or supported, is a better word, by the city elected officials. And so in February, I believe, each of the developers went to the city council, and the council chose one project to support. This is the project that was supported, and in your packet, beginning on page 96, you'll see that we've included the property profile maps. On page 109 begins the process of the submittals by the developer. And basically from 109 through page 124, you'll see the information for the packet, including the credentials, the property brochure, lots of information on the project itself. These would be single-story homes, typically built 4 units per building. And the project, again, was supported by city council, but of course is contingent upon the rezone. They did submit the application for a simultaneous consideration of a replat along with the rezone decision. However, I talked to the developer about 2 weeks ago, maybe a little less, and they have opted to, or they've asked that we not act on the replat request because they have not prepared a replat until they want to delay that until they get a decision on the rezone request itself. So I believe we have a representative here tonight.
Okay.
And he is here to answer any questions as well.
Okay, thank you. Do they own the property? Does the developer own the property already?
I believe it's under acquisition.
Okay. Questions for Steve?
Are these developers in any way connected with the existing senior living home at 2305?
No, sir.
Okay.
Has a water runoff study been conducted already? on
That's
this
part of the
property?
development
That will be
process.
part of it, okay.
All right, so the developer, Mr. Brooks, are you,
Actually, my name's Wade Bynski. I'm here to represent the development team. I didn't know if it'd be best for me to speak now or wait for public comments so I could try to address any concerns, whichever y'all prefer.
let's go ahead and have you do your presentation, and then we will open up to public comments.
I kind of brought a layout. If anybody else wants to see it, this is what we're looking at doing. As you can see, we're looking, I mean, these look really not much different than a typical residential home. These would be single story. We're talking about doing 12 of these, so it's not gonna be very dense. I believe it's about right at about 8 acres. So this would probably be less dense than a typical residential development would be. We're putting it 300 feet off that road. When we do these senior developments, we like for them to be off the road for 2 reasons. 1, so it's a little bit more peaceful for the residents, a little bit more quiet. Then 2, that also leaves frontage road open for better development, you know, because obviously, you know, anything frontage that FM8 would probably be better used for commercial. That's why we went off that main road back to the property. Not very dense, 12 units, 12 buildings, 48 units, so basically 12 like 4-plex style development units. I can tell you, we designed this, we looked at the aerial, we designed this with the residents, you know, with their concerns in mind. You can see, I don't know, it's hard to tell from this drawing here, the site plan, but we cut off the development before that Vantage Road, so there will be no access to this off of Vantage Drive. We actually worked with code, our architect did, and we got approval. There's a little turnaround there at the back of our development. So normally, cities like to see two different ingresses, egresses, but we got approval to do at the very back of our property. We designed a turnaround, so that way we have no reason, it's closed off, there will never be access to that Vantage Drive. If someone else developed that property, if those are residential homes, they're gonna be coming in from the Blue Jay, turning on to Vantage to access this property. But with ours, you know, we're basically taking out a large portion of that land that would never be accessed through that residential neighborhood right there. Only access is gonna be off that FM8. So, and I believe a large majority of the remainder of that land is either taken up by utility easements, there's flood in there. So, if there's concern about traffic coming through the neighborhood, this should hopefully help with future development, with us not having access off of that road. And I could also tell you, with this being a senior development, with our other senior developments, I would say at least half are homebound, there's no driving. So, you know, and the other half, they're single residents. So there's not gonna be much traffic at all from this development. Being 48 units, you might have 24 people that are driving in there. It's gonna be professionally landscaped. We're gonna put 20 to 25 foot buffer between us and the residential homes. It's gonna be a privacy fence. And we're happy to do landscaping on either side of that, whichever, you know, the city would prefer, residents' concerns, whatever they would want. But there's gonna be privacy fence there, there's gonna be a buffer. So we feel like, you know, this whole project is gonna be professionally landscaped. It's always gonna be held to the highest standards, because the people that come in and purchase our funding amounts, they come in every year, they inspect our property. All of our other developments are in pristine shape. You would not know. We have a senior development in Huntsville that's almost 25 years old, and you would not know it. We have one in Kennedale. It's one of that town's prize developments. There's a long waiting list for that senior development. Everybody likes it. We have letters of recommendation from the city of College Station, where we're from. They speak in support of, you know, the developments that we do. We keep them up. We're a small, local, family-run organization. There was some other applicants that came to Stephenville to apply for these funds from out of state. They actually ended up not even going through with their applications. So, we're nothing like that. You know, we understand the concerns of small-town residents. You know, we're here to answer any concerns. We're not here to put big two-story apartments. If it's necessary, we're fine with doing a specific use. If there's concern that we might change this and do a multifamily or something that can't be done, we already turned in our application. It's approved for seniors. We're gonna get the funds. But we're fine with doing some sort of specific use zoning too. If it needs to be specific for seniors, we're fine with that, because this would only ever be seniors. These are only 1 and 2 bedroom, single-story, handicapped accessible units. This is not gonna turn into student housing. In College Station, you have all the time where there's residential communities where people raise single-story homes and put up 2-story houses and rent them out to students. Happens all the time in Bryan, College Station. I hear that that's a big problem here with Stephenville. It's hard for the seniors to find a community to live. There's 2 others that I'm aware of. I've contacted them both. They're both full. They both have long waiting lists. This is an excellent opportunity for the city to bring in something like this. There's not too many developers. I know that it was brought up that there was 4 other senior developments being proposed, but all those other ones were actually multifamily. Not many developers want to do these senior developments because the money's not there. You could do a lot more units with the same amount of land for multifamily, so there's not too many people knocking on the door trying to do these senior communities.
Just to make sure I understand, so this is, you manage it, rent these out, correct?
Yes.
And so you maintain management?
Yes, and there's
Okay.
actually, I mean, there'll be, you know, like I said, there'll be investors coming in, the syndicators coming in, doing property inspections on a yearly basis. The state, we're getting some funding for the state They're gonna come in every year, do property inspections, so it's gonna be
Highly
maintained.
managed, okay. My other question is, so you would be open to like, if we went this direction, wanting like to move this into a planned development rather than an R3, which would specify that it maintains at this, what is it, 55 and up?
Yes, and if that's a concern, but I mean, you can see our agreement with the state, which is locked in for 40 years, would maintain
Your
that
funding
it has
is-
to be seniors. But
Yeah.
even, there's always concern about this becoming something else at some other time, but
Well, and
40
I
years-
guarantee you that's what these people are here
Yes.
about. They're afraid that this is gonna get turned, 40 years from now,
Yeah.
turned into apartments. So
Yeah.
I understand that's the fear. I live in that neighborhood too, so I
Yeah.
get it.
And we're,
Um,
we're fine with that we just have deadlines, basically with, I don't know if that would change the process here, but we would have to have this in place by, either this meeting or the next meeting for our deadlines with the state.
Should be
There's-
made, okay.
But, I mean, the way these are designed, that's not gonna happen. I know there's obviously no guarantees, but in 40 years, I mean, these are 1 and 2 bedroom, big, 800 square foot, one bedroom's over 1,000 for the twos. These are designed for seniors.
Okay,
Um,
thank you. Commissioners, does anybody else have?
Yes, I have some questions. Basically, you're planning on using about the northern half of this piece of property.
Basically, right behind, the majority of it is gonna be right behind that. I think it's Laura Glenn Assisted Living.
Well, you have some kind of drainage, which is right adjacent to the Dollar General, which I assume puts it in some kind of a floodplain. You also have a choke point here, which is the very narrow area between the boundaries of the property and the 2305 property. Are you planning on access at 2 points on Lingleville Road or just one?
Just the one with the 30-foot drive, with the 30-foot wide drive there.
Because it seems to me if, God forbid,
Bruce?
something happened close to that choke point, nobody else would be able to get in there.
All right, but
And-
Bruce, our object here today is simply to discuss the rezone and not the planning of the development. So I know that what I'm gonna hear from city council is, this isn't for us to discuss right now, that is for planning down the road. So our decision here today is simply about the rezone.
Well,
But we have had our architect come here, he's kind of old fashioned, he comes and does everything in person. He visited with city officials to make sure that this is all in compliance with all the codes and requirements of the city. That's why we tried to do everything to the, looking at the surrounding area, that's why we tried to cut it off. A lot of times, the cities will want, like you said, 2 different accesses,
Yes.
but we did not want to, originally, we had it to where we were gonna be having an emergency exit there on that Vantage, but we knew that would be a concern with the neighboring community, so we just cut it off and worked out a kind of a compromise to put a little turnaround, we dedicated that back part of our property for a turnaround. That way, we wouldn't ever have to access or have give anybody a reason to come through that residential neighborhood.
Okay, so let's put a pin in the development questions and return to the rezone issues. So does anybody else have a specific question? Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, I missed you, go ahead.
The commercial property, you're asking to go B2. Who's controlling that property?
That's actually, we're here on behalf of Tom Brooks, basically with us taking out that back part of the property, our intentions were to allow him to use that as a future commercial site. And that's his, and we're just here on his behalf, we submitted the application for him, to get that. I believe it's 2 acres, I'm not exactly sure, there's a survey, but, to have that zone commercial, and it's surrounded by commercial. I believe there's some storage units right next to that site. And I think that's the reasoning behind that. And there's some commercial on the other side of that road as well.
So I don't see your Del Webb pool,
something happens
Boosie
right
courts.
there, they
and
couldn't get
I'm sorry.
jogging path.
I'm sorry.
I don't see your Del Webb pool, Boosie courts, and jogging path.
Oh, bocce courts.
Bocce.
Yeah.
If they had
Okay.
access right there.
Okay. All right, so thank you, sir. Appreciate your
I
time.
don't mind coming back if there's any other questions. I don't know if I'm allowed to
Okay.
come back and answer any other.
Okay, we'll go ahead and
Okay.
let them do their talking, and then we'll see where we're at. So, people in the audience, I know there's a lot of you here, a lot who want to speak. So we have a 3-minute time limit, which I will set on my handy dandy phone. So I apologize, I know it's obnoxious, but people get upset if it's not super fair. So it shall be fair. I will go ahead and call people on my list. Come to the podium. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your address. And if somebody here who would like to speak has not filled one of these out, please do so. So we're going to start with Brenda Geis.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
shouldn't you call a public hearing?
Did I not actually call public? I am opening a public hearing. Those here who wish to speak in favor or against, the public hearing is now open. Mrs. Geis. So please state your name, address, and your position.
Brenda Guys, 713 Spring Meadow. And I'm just here to say that right now it's single family. You change it to multifamily, and I'm concerned that someone could come in and buy that, change it to something else. We live in a quiet community with a lot of green space, and all these other developments start, I mean, I'm all for homes, single-family homes, just like we have, and that's the way I would like for it to stay.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Can we ask questions of them as they?
We're not.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Next up, we have David Geis.
David Guys, I live at 713 Spring Meadow Street. I got a question for this commission here. How many of y'all live in this neighborhood that we're talking about here? Okay, so we have one person that lives in that. Okay. People that live in this neighborhood have bought homes and built homes for their forever homes to be where they can raise a family, retire, and stay that way. You know, this has been zoned as one-family dwelling places. And you're talking about not only changing it from that to multifamily to commercial. You know, I understand these are great projects and they're wonderful ideas. Put them someplace that's already zoned for them. Quit taking up our neighborhood where we live to put in things that it wasn't designed for. This is our home. This is where we live. This is where we chose, and it was without the apartment buildings, whether they be for elderly or college or whoever. And it was without the businesses. If you want it, people want a commercial property, go where it's already zoned commercial. We already deal with drainage issues over there, and you start developing that contributes to the drainage problem. We already have that. So the more you develop that area, the more problems we have with the drainage over there. You know, I agree with these projects. They're wonderful, but put them in areas that they're already at. And I ask y'all to consider your decisions based on what would you want going in around your homes, in your neighborhoods. And that's what I ask y'all to consider. Consider this like you live there. This is your home. This is your neighborhood. This is where you plan to live your life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have James Stevenson. James Stevenson. Please state your name and address.
My name is James Stevenson. I live at 135 Blue Jay. And basically all my concerns have already been said. You know, I bought my home there about 2 years ago on Blue Jay. And, you know, everything was zoned for single family homes. And like I said, my concerns have already been stated. You know, that's what the plan was. And, you know, I'd like to keep it that way.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James Bucker? I apologize if I mispronounced that.
Try to make it brief.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
On that, just to get this one out of the way, I received a call on Wednesday the 13th from a Larry Shepherd wanting to know, he said, I'm buying the land behind your house, and he said, I need a road plan so I can finish my commercial operation, okay? That's right there, Larry Shepherd. And how did he get my telephone number? I don't know, but all I know is they're already going with it. When you look up there at that picture up there, that top, the green right there, that's where my house is. I'm the one closest to FM 8.
State your address for the record, please, so that's on record. Your address?
101 Blue Jay.
Thank you.
And I'm right there on the corner of it up there. On the right side of me is the storage operation and also a water entrapment place, you know. I can stand anywhere in my yard or house and point down at the Senior Citizen Rehab Center. It's right there. Okay, what we're concerned about, I'm gonna have to put a fence up, another fence, because the fact of the matter is the more people you have around, the more you're apt to have crime and all other kinds of stuff in traffic. And when I look at that right there, the only place that road goes down is the back row of Blue Jay. A couple of us right here live right there. He's 103, I'm 101. And we can't stand to have a steady stream of cars coming back all the time. Oak Tree subdivision is on the other side of the retirement or the older deal. In the summertime, you're in trouble because all the noise and everything over there, they're all just having a good time. Why not? But we can't have the lights and all that kind of stuff in our back over there. You can't put up a fence 7 foot, I understand, in Stephenville, as high as you can go, but you can't do that. My question is this: is our insurance and taxes going to go up on our property because of what they're doing over here? They said they're going to put a commercial operation, but they also say what it is. We don't have any idea. 3 liquor stores have already gone in town. Is that going to be the 4th one? I don't know. I'm just saying, nobody's telling us on that. Anyway, we're concerned about the rise in the traffic, safety of our home, the construction.
That's your 3 minutes, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
I've got more comments.
You can also speak at the city council when this comes up in front of them. All right, moving on to Mark Carson. Please state your name and address for the record.
If I may take the liberty to speak on behalf of the group, given the entire amount of 10 minutes rather than 3. I did write it down.
All right, but who all are you speaking for? Because we've had a number of people.
I'm about to give you a petition.
Okay, so you've got a
I'm gonna
large
give you
group
a
of people
complete-
that you're speaking
the
for?
The entire neighborhood. I'll finish giving you
All
the
right,
rest of the
then,
details.
correct. You are given 10 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of a group.
Okay?
All right.
I have a petition here signed by at least 25 residents in the neighborhood. My name is Mark Kaiser, 111 Blue Jay, and I start out by just telling you I appreciate your service, and I understand sometimes how difficult the challenges are. We are opposed to the replatting and the rezoning of the request that's before you, and I wish to point out a few items that are on the record. Some of them are, again, a little bit more technical, but again, you can see, and I can tell you, I'm pretty sure most everybody else besides staff, besides staff here, or maybe the applicant, or and maybe some city council members wanting to hear what's happening are here. But first thing is, Any change would be contrary to the city's future land use plan. You just updated the plan in 2019. It's been in place, planned to be like this as single-family R1. It was designed and set up as this way when Gulf Country Estates was put together as an entire community. We're asking that it remain R1 and continue to build out the remaining portion of the development. This is envisioned to be a single-family residential location as a part of the Gulf Country Estate neighborhood. 2, we are opposed to government-subsidized multifamily project in our Gulf Country Estates single-family residential neighborhood. Kid you not, he can call it what he wants. I understand the jargon, but the jargon is he's building 4 units into one. That's called multifamily. It is not, single-family living, there's single-family living apartment complexes. They're not having the same level of pride as a single-family owner has in their property and their ownership of that particular residence. We are opposed, 3, we are opposed to B2 zoning along the highway. Everything else along there is B1, so why is it being asked for B2? Let me tell you, we don't know, as been mentioned, but I can tell you that what is available in B2 now is a liquor store, and I can tell you that the adjoining neighbor is very concerned about a liquor store getting put in right beside his house. That's a fair statement. 4, you cannot contract zone as a board. You cannot subdivide by meets and bounds, and your own rules, both within the city statutes as well as state statutes, govern you're not being able to do it the way that you're going about this particular process. This proposal does not meet the International Fire Code for proper public safety access, especially to the density that they're talking about in this area. The other thing is where they're putting this property and the way they're designing this property. The entire track, if you'll notice, the entire track goes all the way back further. Everything that's being discussed right now is being discussed where it cuts it off at Vantage Road. You're subdividing, in other words, you're not talking about the whole thing, or you're rezoning the whole thing, and then therefore you're going to have some of it that's still in R3, even if you do specific plan development and all these other kind of concepts, which I know about. That's government jargon to get around and try to allow something like this to occur when we are absolutely opposed to the changing of the zoning and or subdividing of this particular piece of property. And so specifically though then, you're allowing them to not fix the storm drainage on this property, to not address the parkland that's required to be a part of this ongoing development, as well as nobody's going to be required to complete Vantage Drive, which is a very important part of this whole thing because obviously traffic flow in this is everybody's concerned about. Even if it does allow it to get on Blue Jay Street, it allows the disbursement of traffic and allows, my understanding is, and I know this to be a fact, I feel certain, and I heard y'all wave earlier, that they're not going to have to do it. I doubt you're going to make these people do a traffic impact analysis for what would occur to be put out on a local highway that's already have high traffic and no turn lanes. This project is a portion of an entire R3 rezoning. So in other words, you're going to be rezoning all this to R3 because you can't do it by spot. You can't do it by contract. So you're going to completely rezone all this to R3 with a little bit of commercial in the front. That means that in the back, behind Vantage Drive, you're sitting here saying that it is available to be sold and developed as, pardon me, apartment complexes or some other multifamily project, okay? Which I say you can't subdivide, but that's a different story. The council voted for this before P&Z got a chance to see it and before residents got their due process. So I can tell you by the council already approving this, that you can say it because it says specifically that they have approved this location, and you cannot go ahead. All other tax credits are given when somebody's given an application and they're putting it into the existing zoning. But instead, they've approved a project that did not have the zoning, did not have already the criteria, and that does not allow the government process as well as you to help protect the residents against corporate structure. We're not opposed to senior citizens. I can tell you, if you look at most of us, I think you'll see a bunch of us are senior citizens. Okay, 60 years old, I think I qualify now. Okay, we are senior citizens. We are living in there, and we have a level of pride when it's your own property and you own it, you take care of it, and you work to try to maintain that whole thing, structure. So, plain and simple, we do not want government subsidized multifamily project in Gulf Country Estates. This is a part of Gulf Country Estate. The petition, we have not quite got all the way out into all the rest of Gulf Country Estates, but I can tell you, Ms. Howard, one of the residents in the neighborhood, has been the one that's gone around and gotten the petition signed, and we're continuing to work on that. I will tell you that we are requesting a supermajority of the council vote. We know that we have the 20% of the required property owner signatures to be able to force a supermajority vote. Because we're a little bit concerned because they've got a safe face because they've already approved this project to the applicant, and the applicant spent a lot of money, I'm sure, and I'm nothing against their quality of project, but again, what happens years from now? So my last question to you is, and I will wrap it up even if I didn't go for the full 10. If I did, I apologize. How many of you up here on the board, how many of you own a single family home? You live in and own? One. Yes, yes, yes. Staff?
No, sir.
No, sir. Yes. Single family? Do you live in a single family? You own a single family resident?
Yes.
Okay. So of two of you do not. Okay. How many now I want to ask you? So you take great pride in where you live and your home, I hope. You know, proud of your asset. Okay. How many of you live beside a multifamily project? One. Two. You don't live in your own home. Two of you? Two.
I live next to a multifamily.
Right next to a multifamily project.
I can see it from my front yard.
So we don't want to be the single family resident living right beside a multifamily project. Your job as a planning and zoning commission is to help to protect us residents from the corporate structures that occur. We're very proud of our community. We're proud of our neighborhood. And we're asking you to protect our way of life and to protect city residential property. We're seeing many other properties. We're asking to try to maintain some of the residential developments and neighborhoods that we currently have. And then lastly, I just put down, and I've already told you about this, we believe, and we're asking for a majority of the council vote prior to approval of this, because we do have the required signatures necessary. I'll be glad to answer any other questions about it. I know I probably cover some technical thing maybe that they don't necessarily have privy to. I can also tell you that there are many here that wish to speak, and I can tell you some that just aren't sure how to deal with government. But I've had that experience, so I'm willing to stand up and help share that. So with that said, I'll be glad to answer any other question. And directly to the resident, I'll tell you right now, you know, their projects are, I'm not going to talk about his project or any other project. You know, they'll build something real nice. We've got some of those right now. As far as I know, none of them were built originally right beside residential neighborhoods. And I could also just say, just look at some of them a few years later. But.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to say.
Oh,
Can we
I'm
sign
sorry.
the petition if we haven't yet?
I live here.
Is that the petition?
We're going to continue.
Okay.
We're going to
Okay.
continue. We'll get another one.
Okay, okay, so the last person I have set to speak is a Josh Bushin? Basham, sorry. Mr. Basham, if you could give your name and address for us.
My name's Josh Basham. I live at 130 Blue Jay, and really, I just have a couple questions. I'm against rezoning, as far as what I understand. So, the way I read it originally was to rezone 29 acres basically to multifamily, right? And then I dug into the agenda today, and it has all these amendments that I really don't understand. And so, 7 acres for multi, and then an acre or 2 acres for commercial. And I was just hoping that maybe somebody could clarify that. Are y'all keeping the 29 acres single family, and then just this, are y'all just wanting the 9 point, let's see, 7 point whatever for multifamily? Is that what y'all are voting on?
Well, do you have other concerns before we address your questions?
All of my concerns are questions.
Are questions?
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
Steve, in terms of the acreage, do you know?
So the original application was submitted for simultaneous consideration of a rezone and a replat. The 2 acres on the, what I would call the northwestern corner of the property was for retail. There was roughly 8 acres for multifamily. The other acreage was not specified. But those 2 tracts, or what they would develop into 2 separate tracts, were for B2, retail and commercial, and R3, multifamily, respectively.
So the balance would
The
remain
balance would have to
R1?
be, the balance
Or
would
would
have
it
to
be
be
R3?
replatted as a separate parcel, and that would have to be taken into consideration for the rezone.
So it would remain R1 unless it came for. So
The request was for R3 zoning.
it remains, so it's R3?
So they have retracted the replat request, and with the replat, the project tonight is for the R3. So they would have to, any action taken tonight,
Is
to
simply
this
about the
gentleman's
R3?
point, would be for the R3 rezone.
For the
For
7
all of the
acres or for
acreage. It would have to
27
be
acres?
all of the rezone.
The
for
the entire
parcel,
thing, for
the entire
29
parcel.
acres?
That's kind of what I was thinking. After
Alright.
looking at it was it makes it sound like you're just looking at the 8 acres, but really in reality y'all are talking about rezoning the whole thing. And I don't think that is fair to us. I feel like there's a lot of non-transparency as far as what was in the packet, basically, because there was amendments in there that looked as though y'all were just gonna rezone these two little spots, and so that answers that question. The other question I had, if rezoned, let's say okay, so are y'all obligated to buy? Let's start here. The state funding that you're getting, it has to be, you have to use it to build this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you obligated to build the retirement community?
Yes.
Okay. If rezoned, let's say Tom Brooks decides that he doesn't want to do that. So we rezone it, who's to say he's not going to say, well, we're not going to do this anymore. I'm going to back out of that contract and I'm just going to put some townhomes up. So that would be my other point. And then you have no plan to connect to Vantage Drive and finish out that road. And then you've already answered my question. If you do build a retirement community, it'll be there. It has to be used for seniors for 40 years. Is that correct?
Yes, and we're happy we can do a special use permit to keep it that
Yeah.
way.
So-
Well, that's fine, but that goes back to the first point. It sounds to me like you can't divide it up. You can't divide it up. And if you can, then it needs to be a separate issue, I would think, right?
Are you talking about dividing the
The
land
29
specifically?
acres,
Yeah.
basically what's gonna happen in my mind is this is getting voted on to rezone it, and it's gonna rezone 29 acres. I understand most of that can't be built on anyways, but still, there's, that 7 acres in the front, there's still at least, another 7, maybe more behind it that like Mr. Kaiser said, could be apartments, and I'm not for that.
Okay.
Because as they have already stated, their plan is to have a cul-de-sac at the end of theirs. And so let's say that the whole thing is rezoned. Then your only access is Vantage. And then you're talking about putting an apartment complex and accessing it through Vantage. And I'm not for that either, so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, that is all of the paperwork I have. Does anybody else here wish to speak in favor or against this rezone? Yes, ma'am. If you would come to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Sherry Carroll, 2605 Phelps Street, Stephenville. I don't have all the details. He's talking to his boss over there about the 29 acres. I just know we need the senior development, the senior living area. I work with Grace Place Ministries. We are constantly facing people calling us saying they can't afford where they're living anymore. They're getting kicked out. I've got a grandmother that's living over here, staying at Royal Inn right now because granddaughter decided to leave and basically made grandma homeless. And there's the 2 senior developments that are here in town are full and have long waiting lists. We need something in town. I understand the concerns, and it sounds to me like there was a mistake made in trying to redo 29 without replatting just the section they want. I can't speak to any of that. All I know is we need the housing, and we need the low-income senior adult housing.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's.
Matt, can I need to rebut that because that's.
Sir, no, I'm sorry. You've had 10 minutes. I apologize. This has been a long night. I know you all have a lot of concerns. Let me tell you that whatever we vote upon, it goes to City Council. We only make a recommendation to City Council. City Council makes the final decision. So, regardless of how we vote, you'll want to go to the next City Council meeting and make your voices heard there. They are the ones who will make that decision. So,
Who in the city council ever goes against y'all's recommendations?
all the time. They do. If you watch any city council meeting. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, we need a, I have not yet closed the public hearing. Please state your name and address.
Ricky Thurman, 107 Sandra Palmer is in Gulf Country. I just want to, not really to speak for or against, I just want to clarify that the council did not approve prematurely what is being presented, Mr. Kaiser. The council passed a resolution in support of this senior project in that general location. There was nothing said about B2. There was nothing said about a portion of it not being developed and left otherwise. So I want to make sure that that's very clear, that the council did not prematurely do anything. I'm not going to speak for or against it. I live in that neighborhood, but I am moving out of it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But I drive by several multifamily developments on in Gulf Country on occasion. So leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak for or against? All right, I shall now close the public hearing. Commissioners, we need a motion to discuss.
I move that we recommend to council denial of RZ 2022-005. And we would need to do 006 separately.
I believe you can act on all of them.
Let's also include 006 as well in RP 2022-002.
Well, that's a replat, so that's,
Yeah.
not in there. Okay, so you recommend denial, and Tom, were you a second?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners?
Do we have a discussion?
Yes, I'm sorry, before we continue, I neglected to say that we also received 2 letters against this as well. So those were entered into the record, 2 letters opposing this. Commissioners, what are your thoughts?
Steve, is this R3 because these are quadplexes? Or is this?
Yes, sir.
Is this the applicant's request for R3?
It's because they're quadplexes and would have to be R3.
Would they fit in the R2.5?
No.
Okay. I will say, I know that there is some multifamily housing in the Gulf Country Estates. In fact, it's right next to the country club itself. But I do know that it was done as a planned development, I believe, versus a rezone, a specific kind of a rezone. And I know that you mentioned, sir, that you would be willing to do a planned development if that
I
might.
don't know what we need to do to keep it, because we do not want to rezone that whole 30 acres. That's not our intentions. I guess maybe there was some mix-up in communication.
Actually, we can't,
address-
I'm sorry, I apologize, we can't actually, we've closed that, so it's simply our discussion at this point.
So I think I'm in agreement with denying it, but I understand the need for senior housing. I mean, there's definitely a need, and it's only going to get larger as our baby boomers age, and look to downsize, and so I think this is something we really need to look at, but I think the way it's been presented tonight is not.
There's a lot
Is
of
not the
unanswered questions.
best. Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered
Especially
questions.
pertaining
That's
to the
good.
29 acres and all.
The
of it.
remainder of the, I mean,
Yes.
the replat is on 9 acres, so what, 9, almost 10 acres. What are we doing with the rest of it? And if it's all left to R3, understandably, I would be wanting to know what are the plans with the rest of that acreage?
One of the things that I see in this meeting, we saw last month with the 4 streets near the university, of a lot of misunderstanding, misinformation, and not a well-communicated presentation, so everybody thoroughly understands all the issues instead of what they think is going, and I'm not casting aspersions, I'm just recognizing, since I've been here since September on this commission, from a professional standpoint, what I'm seeing. And we as a community probably should do a better job of communicating to the public beyond what the law requires in order to have folks well informed of the issues. And that's what I'm seeing now, is that when you get a packet like this and this goes out, this is not a packet to get a comfortable feeling of a win-win. And that is a difficult thing that we're facing, and that's what we're seeing here. I appreciate everybody coming, and I've sat in your shoes, and I understand the issue. I understand we need to have a better model on housing. I'm not even, but my concern to this commission and to the people is that we have to have a better job of communicating these things well in advance. So this information can be disseminated and communicated, and you're well informed, and we're not having to have these issues of, we don't know what's going on.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. Do you have anything specific on this rezone issue? I absolutely hear what you're saying.
I don't
and
like the
agree.
way, from a professional as an architect, I don't like the way it's being presented.
Got it.
That doesn't mean it's not a good project. I think there's just too much that needs to be understood, that the property owners who, that could support this had they, with better information, or could give some input on how we could get a win-win from their perspective, is not being adjudicated.
Got it.
I also have one other, Vantage Drive, are there plans to connect Vantage Drive? That's my other concern, because I feel like that would help the flow of traffic through the city, and if the sale of this property or the replat here prevents future use or future expansion of that road or connecting of those road ends, that would be a concern for me as well. As we expand and as our streets get more clogged, we need more thoroughfares.
Well,
to an extent.
the future use is single family. Current zone is single family. It was designed as single family and needs to remain single family. If you want a project like this, there are plenty of other vacant properties around town that are of size that would be able to accommodate. I would look at those places rather than trying to go into somewhere that's already established as a single-family residence and trying to rezone it from its future land use.
All right, let's go ahead and bring this to a roll call vote. So the motion stands to deny recommending to council the rezone of this property. Bruce?
Aye.
Okay. Justin?
Aye.
Mary?
I think I.
Aye. Because I live in this neighborhood and that could be perceived as a conflict of interest, I'm going to abstain. Brian?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
All right, so the recommendation goes forth to council. We recommend denial of this. Your job is not done. So this goes to city council. Ours is only a recommendation. They will make the final decision. So, so you go to them and do the same thing all over, and so do you, sir.
Will we be aware of when that meeting is going to happen?
That meeting is?
First Tuesday in May.
First Tuesday in May.
Yes, sir.
If they connect Vanish Drive and Blue Jay, it goes over the creek.
I don't,
Yeah, I'm
yes,
just saying
yes.
that if you're going over the creek, it's.
All right, well,
Next case.
yeah, we, address that to city council in your comments.
First Tuesday in May?
First Tuesday in May, yes, ma'am. All right, we are gonna go ahead and move along because this is very busy. Y'all are free to leave. You don't have to hang out, even though I know this is riveting.
Thank you very much.
And we appreciate your time. Thank y'all.
What time is that meeting first Tuesday?
5:30.
Same place.
Thank you. Right here.
All right, thank y'all for coming. Appreciate your time. All right, the next case, the last case, is number PD 2022-001. Applicant 2828 Real Estate LLC is requesting a rezone from single-family residential district R1 to planned development for address 1300 Pecan Hill Drive, parcel R50244, 1.190 acres, S5465, Glasgow Edition, Lot 1 of the City of Steenville, Erath County, Texas. Mr. Killen.
Thank you, ma'am. The applicant is here tonight to discuss a conceptual plan for this project, and we'll be coming back for a rezone, approval of a preliminary plat, and of course, approval of PD at a future meeting. In your packet tonight, you'll see that there has been quite a bit of detail submitted in regards to what the conceptual plan will entail, including items down to parking, landscaping, the tree survey, and renderings of the building that are all included in the staff report. This property is located at the corner of Pecan Hill and Northwest Loop, and I believe the developer is here tonight to present and answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have questions for Steve?
The applicant is asking for a PD.
Correct. First step in a
According to-
PD is a
according to-
conceptual plan.
Do what?
First step in the process is to review a conceptual plan.
So under the ordinance, under permitted uses, when you look at the conditions for non-residential plan development, how do they qualify for a PD? I don't see that.
They're a non-resident, I'm sorry, they're a non-residential.
No, but there says development is considered appropriate where the following conditions prevail, and there are 5 of them. And I cannot see how, I do not see the benefit of going from a B1 to a PD when they can do everything they need where they are, and the site exhibits environmentally natural features which should be considered for preservation or enhancement. Aesthetic amenities may be provided in the planned development design which are not economically feasible to provide in a conventional non-residential project. And I've gone through their drawings and just those two.
I think 5 addresses that. The project provides a compatible transition between adjacent existing single-family residential projects and provides a compatible transition for the extension of future single-family projects into this.
But all 5 have to prevail.
Okay, let's.
See, Steve, that's why I'm concerned is that.
I don't read that
see a
as
reason.
all 5.
What
I don't
page are
read
you
that as
on?
all, it's,
It's right underneath.
126.
It says the following conditions prevail. It doesn't say.
It doesn't
any
say
of them.
when all
Okay.
5.
Well, then take that, your interpretation,
Mhm.
and include that in, make your vote reflect your interpretation of the ordinance.
Right, right. Okay. Any other questions for Steve? Okay, we'll now go ahead and hear from the developers here. Sir, please state your name and address.
Justin Heskey, 1313 Prairie Wind. And the reason for the PD is there's also a home going up 2 lots over. That's my home. So my intention is to protect the integrity of the neighborhood with the residential adjacent to it. So that's why it's going through a PD process. So.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and open a public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak in favor or against this? Well, it's just we're not doing are we doing a rezone, or we're just looking
It's
at
just
the?
a conceptual plan
It's just a
review.
conceptual plan, but
Can he
it's.
tell us a little more about what he was
Certainly
wanting to do?
his.
Would you like to tell us a little more about what you're wanting to do?
Well, it's just, I mean, the idea, I have many people that have approached me that there is a lack of commercial building space in Stephenville. It's either available for rent or use, and so I feel like there is an opportunity here to capitalize on that, so.
Is this gonna be like office space? That's,
Yes.
I got the feeling, and there's maybe some conference rooms. Would this be spaces that could be rented out
Ideally, just a single.
or single
Single use.
use? Okay.
I would like to limit the amount of traffic that could be impacted.
Okay.
So this is one building.
This would be one building.
One building for potentially one tenant.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you're not building the building, you're just rezoning the property,
I know I'll be building the building.
building the building.
Building the building as well.
So why do you think a PD is better than a B1 or a B2 if you're gonna build the building on the property? I don't see how the PD protects the residential if you're gonna control the entire property.
If, I would,
Direction I've chosen to go.
also, if he sells it in the future, then it protects, it still continues to protect his home or any other homeowner in that vicinity.
Right.
If
That's
it's,
true.
if it's a planned development.
But he's just got, okay.
Yes, right
But
now,
the-
he owns the home and
Yeah.
he is building the building.
Let-
But if in the future he sells the property, that planned development continues, stays with the property.
So
Let's-
tonight, the purpose of tonight is to actually look at the conceptual plan, provide feedback on the plan development that you would like to see based on the concept.
Okay,
So
Right.
we're getting
Then I
a
have
little
a-
bit off track here.
Exactly.
then I have a question.
Okay, let's wait
Okay.
till we get through the public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak for or against closing the public hearing? Let us have a motion, please.
I move to approve this.
I'll second.
this.
Actually, no actions.
Oh, no
no
actions
actions
required. We're
required.
only giving feedback. Never mind. Okay, so feedback. So this is simply about the site plan
Yep.
and any feedback we have. So it's a small, one-building office space located right there on the corner of Pecan and the Northwest.
This is right
Loop.
across the street from the fire station also.
And the bank, right?
And the bank, yeah, it's across
Yeah.
the highway from the bank.
Yeah.
The applicant has provided renderings and some very specific
Yeah,
information regarding the development in the package.
The building is gorgeous, and I
It
think
is.
it's
It
a
looks
nice,
beautiful.
I think it would be a nice addition to
Mhm.
this.
It looks great.
That's
And-
34 parking places.
Mhm. I have no objection to what I'm seeing here.
I think Mr. Peacock would approve.
Mr. Who?
The late Mr. Peacock, Don Peacock, was one of the developers of
I see, okay.
the Pecanville Estates.
Okay.
All right, do we have any recommendations? Any concerns or questions?
Good. I do. You have a tree survey plan, which your landscape architect has gone through and identified the characteristic of the trees. And then on your site plan, you go through and almost eliminate all the trees that the building's gonna take care of. But you have perimeter trees, but there's nothing in the concept plan that talks about the enhancement or use of the trees except they're there. So when you look at the PD requirement that talks about the site exhibits environmentally natural features which should be considered for the preservation of the enhancement, what I kind of took away was we've identified the trees, but we've taken out most of the trees to put in the building and brought in a lot more landscaping around the building. So what was the thought of, because on this piece of property for that size of building, we're not keeping very many trees.
I think if you look also on that, a lot of those trees were not in good condition.
Well, I understand.
So
that.
I think.
It used to be a pecan orchard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think the fact that they're pulling out trees that are not in good condition and replacing them with
With healthier trees.
healthier trees.
Well, they're not really replacing them with healthier trees, they're replacing them with more smaller plant materials and let the bigger
Okay.
trees go through. So my thinking was, my question is, I mean, I don't have a problem with the project per se, I think it's a good,
I think it
Concerned
shows that
about
they're
the
being
trees.
I think it
Okay.
shows that they're being thoughtful about where they're building, what they're pulling out, and what they will be bringing back in. To me, it makes sense for this planned development. It shows that they're looking at all different aspects of their project.
Do we need a motion to recommend, or simply, this is simply feedback,
it
we don't need
requires a
anything,
motion. I think
right?
it's just
It's
feedback
just feedback,
for the
so
conceptual plan.
Mr. Hines has some concerns about your trees. I love it, I think it looks gorgeous. Anybody else have any concerns that they would like to add? All right, well, at this point, you come back to us with a planned development and a formal request for a rezone from R1 to PD. All right, thank you, sir. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Thank you, everybody, for your time.